and we're joined by Ben of Rainbreakers. How you keeping, mate?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, like we were just saying there. All things considered, all right, mate.
Yeah, good. Yeah, exactly.
So you guys have just released Ashes, which we played on the radio show last week on the launch day of it. Great song, man. Not totally surprised by it because saw you guys at Rambling Man Fair a couple of years ago. That's where I came across you guys. So for anybody who doesn't know you guys, what would you say the song was? Is there a story behind the song you can share with anyone, or?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a lot of what we write there's a story behind it. But this particular one it's the beginning of a journey. We're going to be releasing an album later this year, but this single was the album's not it's a whole thing, it's a whole story within that, and this is like I said, the beginning of that journey. And there's a strong sentiment and feelings of feeling held back or anger, frustration. And I know why I feel like that in my life, but I think, the video that came out, to go along with that it can be kind of, that whatever that is for any person, you can kind of let go of it yourself. And I think in some respects I've held on to the past a little bit too much, and that's sometimes it played more tricks on me than I needed it to. And so yeah, it's about kind of letting go, finding your way forward, and being given that opportunity, and kind of like, the chorus says, so give me wings and let me fly. So it's like I believe everyone can achieve. You just need that opportunity first.
That's cool, man. I mean, like you say, when the chorus hit, I thought it was really optimistic in the song. I mean, we've all, like you say, been through bad times. Everyone's got their story. Everyone's story is different, but everyone's been held back by certain things, like you say, in life. And to have songs that tackle that without being pessimistic, I think is always good.
Oh, thank you. We try and there's emotional content is high for us in what we do. Our writing process is how we write. I don't know how other people do it, but for us, someone might come up with a riff or a bit of a song or an idea, and the bit I can't define is I find an attachment in it emotionally somewhere without even sort of understanding, and it's all subconscious, and I start to sing something, or I might say a phrase or even just a melody, and then I know how I felt in that moment, and that's what then we start to write off. And then it's sometimes not until we finish writing a song, I'm like, oh, that's what that's about in my life. Yeah. That's what that's about. Well done, Ben. Like you dealt with something finally.
I think there's that thing though, isn't it? Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of technical players that I like as well, but for me, it's always been about rock with the soul in it and with a story and meaning. And if you don't have that heart in your music, I think it can become across a little stagnant and a little bit clinical sometimes. But I think if you've got the emotion in your music like you guys have, like, for example, going back to when I first saw you at Rambling Man, obviously, no disrespect, I hadn't heard you before then, so all your songs were new to me, but you guys resonated with me because of that emotion in your song. And I thought, oh, these guys are worth sticking around for. So I sat there and watched your set, and I think anybody with any band that's got that much emotion and personality within their music, I think that always comes across.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be completely honest with you, this is a selfish endeavor. I personally don't do this for anybody else. I started this band because I was suffering from mental illness myself. I'd been signed off. I was on medication. I was seeing counselors and therapists and blah blah blah. And I was encouraged to pick up something again that I enjoyed. Yeah. And all I could remember getting any kind of pleasure from or anything was to be in a band, and that's what I wanted to do. I remember being a teenager and being like, oh, that's what I want to do for whatever reason, why we make these decisions. It wasn't like I never wanted to do it because I thought I never was like interested in it because I thought it was cool. I was interested in it because I instantly wanted to write songs, and thinking backwards, I don't really know why I was like that, other than perhaps I obviously wanted to let something out of myself that I wasn't aware of in that present moment. And again, highly sort of influenced by emotional songwriters like Adam Duritz from Counting Crows, and like just delves into some places that are pretty dark sometimes, and it's difficult to talk about. And I think with writing this kind of music, for me anyway, there's being able to put it. It's like writing it down on like the idea on a piece of paper. It's out of your head now. It's like it's printed on a vinyl or it's on a CD. And I think maybe, like you say, because of that emotional content, it makes it sort of accessible to people.
I think that's it. And like stuff with mental health, I mean, I'm fully behind. I've had my own battles myself, and I think it's something I'm passionate about is breaking down those taboo barriers of talking about it. And I think even if you're talking about it in song and you're just putting it out there, that's how I felt. I think that does make people listen and they go, okay, I'm not crazy, I'm not weird, I'm not a freak. I'm hurting, and it's okay to hurt, and you will find your way. And some people find it through music. I found my way through martial arts. That was my vent. I know other people find it for very different ways. It's very important to find your way. So I'm glad you found your way, man.
Yeah, and I still am, to be honest with you. It's
it's a constant battle. It's a constant thing.
Yeah, it's a constant thing, and I think sometimes, I don't know, I talk about this with my family sometimes. There's a kind of perception of who I might be just because I'm a singer in a band, and I find that quite difficult sometimes. Just because I'm the frontman of a band doesn't mean I'm A, B, or C. It's like but that's I think it oddly. I had a spinal operation last year, and being quite a young person, nobody would expect me to have had a spinal operation when they walked past me. And I kind of, for the very first time, I genuinely become acutely aware of you don't actually know what anyone else's situation is. So I would be standing across the road waiting for a long gap because I was walking so slowly, and I was like, but people were looking at me and getting annoyed, and I was like, you don't know that I've just had a back operation. I can't just run across the road like I would have done 5 years ago. I can only walk at this pace at the moment. Do you know what I mean? And it's those, I think sometimes we can attribute, we can understand things more when there's a physicality behind it, when people are like, they've got a cast on the leg, or or they're in a wheelchair, or they've got crutches. You can tell there's something wrong. But when it's something inside your own head that you're sort of dealing with, it can be challenging. And equally, I don't always like to put that on other people either, because they might be having a great day, and why should I come and shit on their parade?
I know exactly what you mean there, man.
Yeah.
Exactly what you mean. So you sort of touched on it a little bit, but for anybody who doesn't know Rainbreakers, how did the band come together, and how did you start off the journey, as it were?
So we're definitely kind of that DIY from the garage, at the side of our parents' house kind of band. So I started playing guitar and singing when I was 14, 15. And Sam, who's the drummer, he's my brother. And me and my mate used to play, who used to be in the band. He was the bass player, and we used to just, jam out in the garage, and people would, my brother, I remember him saying, like, oh, can I join in? And I think I even flippantly said to him, well, learn to play something, then you can't you? No one's stopping you, man. And he went away and learned to play some drums a bit, and then we just started gigging. We got, we were 15, 16, 17 maybe, and we were gigging in pubs. In fact, we'd turn up at pubs and they'd be like, who are you? And we're like, we're the band. And we're like, you're not allowed in. This is back when you had to be 18 to get in the pub, full stop.
I've been there, lied about how people were to play.
It's a really awkward situation where they were like, you're not really allowed in. We're like, well, you've booked us. I don't know how you want to deal with this situation. So we had to set up and then wait outside and all that kind of stuff. And but yeah, so we did that, and they went off to uni. I continued to sort of do some solo stuff, just locally, really, to be honest with you. And then I joined a folk band for a while.
All right.
Doing 3-part harmonies. We had bazookies, fiddles, and mandolins, and all sorts going on. Really influenced by a band called Show of Hands.
I've heard the name, yeah.
Yeah, they're a fantastic band. And they had this thing where they basically gigged for years, and they do community centres or like village halls and sell tickets themselves and do all this.
Oh, yeah.
They did this over, I don't know if it was 10 years or a 20-year period. I think it was 10, but they then managed to build that up. So they sold out the Albert Hall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like absolutely, absolutely incredible achievement, and I was like, in my head, I was like, wow, so we just got to get out there then, just go and gig, and like you can build your fans this way. You don't have to get a record deal, or you can just go out and be a musician. But I was the youngest of the three of us in that particular folk band, and my life was very different to those who were older than me. That kind of started to fall apart, and then I was working. I was working in quite a big job. I was high up in this company. They wanted me to become all this like district regional managery kind of thing by the time I was 25, and I was just like, before I realized it, I was like, what have I done to my life? I'm too young to be doing this. I didn't want to, that's not what I wanted for myself. So I think that was what sort of brought on the sort of low mood, the depression, anxiety side of things. And then, like I said, Sam and Pete, who used to be in the band, came back from university. And I was just like, guys, look, I'm not in a great place. Do you fancy just playing some music in the garage for fun? Just something to do. I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
That was all I was doing once a week, was going in the garage to rehearse with those guys. I was struggling just to go to the local shop and buy a toothbrush if I needed it. Do you know what I mean? I was really having a hard time. And so we did that, and it kind of, I think something switched on in my brain, and we went to some open mic nights. I think having the support of my friends and my brother with me, I was like, I'm kind of protected. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I've got some people with me. I'm not on my own and all that kind of stuff. And we started doing that, and a guy called Jack, he's not in the band now, but who joined us at the time on electric guitar, joined us, and I was uninterested in becoming a big fish in a little pond.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we were getting quite quickly, we were getting a lot of interest in our local area, and I appreciated that greatly. But I was like, I don't want to get stuck in that mindset that's where we're going. My personal ambition is greater than that for me. I'm not disregarding it for other people. I just mean for me, I was like, I want to see because I was kind of like, I wasn't suicidal, but I didn't want to exist anymore. I couldn't be arsed with the grief of being alive. It was like, if someone could just said, there's a button, you don't have to be here, I'd have gone, all right, see you later. Right. And because of that point, and the reason I kind of started to half the reason I started to pick myself up was I got to this point of like, okay, so you think everything's awful and you feel awful. You're not going to do anything about it negatively, as in take your own life. So you might, if everything's pointless, in your opinion, then you might as well make the most of it that you can.
Yeah.
And take advantage of whatever you can in the best way that suits you. Don't worry about anybody else. just do whatever you think you need to do. So we did, and we started taking gig opportunities. We did stupid things. When we drove to Norwich and back for a gig, which was like a 4 or 5 hour drive to play for 25 minutes, just because I was so intent on just being like, we're going to just gig. I was kind of almost blindedly just going for it. And not with any intent of trying to, I don't know, reach the stars or anything. I just wanted to be gigging as wherever we could play,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it all began. And we found ourselves getting an offer of a support, which I think the first one was with Lawrence Jones, and we had like Chantal McGregor and bits and pieces like that. And that led on to playing at the Great British Rock and Blues Festival over at Skegness. And then as things started to develop, I just kept thinking, well, I was like, well, I think we've got to this, but I think we could do what I'm seeing other people do. We can probably do that. And so I'd try, and we could. And then that's all I kept thinking was, well, I think we can, not in like an egotistical way, but I think sometimes I see other bands and I go, well, I think we're as good as they are.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, well, we could probably do that then. So let's have a look at how we might do that. and that's all we do. That's all I do all the time. Is just go, well, I think we could do that.
Yeah, but there's a big difference, isn't there, between being egotistical and just being optimistic and progressive with stuff. Seeing other bands and going, yeah, what they're doing it, why can't we? We're as good as them. It's not going, it's not doing an Axl Rose. It's,
No.
and there's nothing wrong with keep pushing it. And that's how you get those breaks, is by continually pushing yourself. And
again, you kind of do need to have a little bit of that. I think there's a mixture of kind of like a healthy amount of narcissism mixed in with like a kind of, I think, again, because of that low point, just being like, well, I'm going to put everything I've got into this. And then if that doesn't work, then I can deal with that afterwards. But I didn't want to get, when I get to be an older man, I didn't want to ever look back and go, I wish I tried that.
Yeah.
I'd rather try everything and fail and fall flat on my face than to look back and regret not trying to take myself to that place.
This is it. At least you gave it a go. And like my granddad always said to me, like, wherever you got your sight on, son, go for it. Because if you fall 4 feet short of it, you're in the right direction still.
Exactly. Yeah. And like this, like we're in the beginning, kind of at the beginning of our journey still. So it's really exciting.
No, of course. So there's been some lineup changes. I'm hearing from what you were saying. Yeah. How long has the current lineup been set, as it were?
Well, ironically, that will be nearly like 2.5 years or something. 2 years this year, I think, maybe. Oh. Yeah. So it's been a while, but I mean, but equally after that, we haven't done anything. So it doesn't feel very long at all. But yeah, so that's been the four of us has been like that for 2 years now.
That's cool. So you mentioned the album that's obviously coming off, or that Ashes is going to be coming off the back of. What's the plans for that then, like release date wise, and have you got a date in mind as such? Or
I'm not allowed to tell you a date, I'm afraid. I've been specifically told don't say any dates. So I was like, okay. I appreciate that. I think I'm more so because I'm worried it might change because nobody knows what's going on.
Everything that's going on at the minute, yeah.
But what I can say about the album is that the four of us, definitely we got to a place we recorded it and we were listening to it for the first time. We went back to work with our producer Tom Gittins at Monochrome Productions, who has become one of my closest friends. He completely. We were fearful of working with someone before because we were like, well, no, you just press the buttons. We've written the songs. Yeah. We didn't work with the producer before that when we recorded our last record, and this one we were much more like, mate, we've done all our homework. We've listened to what happened last time and what you were talking about, and we've like really tried to expand upon our songwriting and what we're trying to achieve here. And we were like, it's every door is open for this record, so wherever we want to go, we can try it. Yeah. We made sure we got ourselves 2 weeks in pre-production in the record studio before we even started recording. Oh. And we actually got 3/4 after the first week we were kind of all going like, I wish we could just start recording now. We're like, because we're kind of ready to go. Yeah. And then we spent a total of maybe I think it was 6 or 8 weeks actually recording with him. So we really put this was more about the overall end product in like, is this the best right now? Not the best we can do, but is this giving out the right? Is this delivering what we want it to deliver? Yeah. Is it musically, from a songwriting point of view, from a personal point of view? Because like I said, I don't do it for you. I do it for me. I'm trying to discover parts of myself, expand upon ideas that I've had in my head about emotional things that have happened to me, and some of that's really hard. Yeah. Especially when you're writing about such personal issues, and you need to be in a space where I'm allowed to feel things. Yeah. And Tom provided that space, and I'm very grateful to him for that, because that it makes the record what it is for me. And so that was really exciting. And then we managed to work with a guy called Brian Lucy, who's a mastering engineer. He's worked with Black Keys, Arctic Monkeys, and Dawn Bramall. Lots of people. We were kind of we liked the sound of, and equally we liked his discussions about there's something we like about a width of sound. Like, think different sounds coming from different places. Like, not, I don't know, just that's what we like. And interesting, especially in the world of production now, you can be quite, you know, we can make a record, and then the live show they can be two different things. They don't have to exist in the same world. But this, the only thing I would really say about this record is I would expect people to be surprised.
Yeah.
That, because like if you're expecting it to sound the same all the way through, or if you're expecting to hear a whole like a just, you know, people have generally heard Ashes and there's another 10 tracks.
Yeah.
And they ain't all like that. Basically, you know, we really move through because we're a band, and we make a sound, and that sound is unique to us, but we don't constrain ourselves by going, oh, that's not this sound, so we can't do that. We're like, is the song serving something? And if the song is, then we record it.
Yeah, the thing is, to me, all the bands I like a lot of my favorite bands do exactly that. You put on a song, and whether like one favorite, Blackstone Cherry, for example, whether it's like an acoustic-y song, whether it's bluesy, whether they've really riffed it up, whether it's gone slow, fast, heavier, some stuff's got almost Virgin on the sort of more grunge on their sounds. But no matter no matter what element of their sound they play in each particular song, you go, that's Blackstone Cherry. And it's not the sound isn't a particular chord or a particular tuning, it's them. And, you know, bands like yourself and Rival Sons, Holostar, another example, you know, bands like those caliber, I don't like when people go, to me, I've always been a person like, if it pricks my ears up, it's good. Doesn't matter what it is. If it pricks my ears up, makes me go, ooh. I've never been one to go, oh, I can't like that type of music, or I can't like this because I like this. But there's loads of, every band that I really do love has that thing of, you know, it's them, but it could be ballad, it could be heavy, it could be soft, it could be light, and it could be everything in between, and it could be all of them. Yeah. And you know it's that band instantly because their sound is the combination of all the members in that melting pot, as it were. And it doesn't.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's something that we really enjoy, you know, and something that and again, like we've had in reviews from even previous work, they just go, can't, you know, we're not trying to defy genres, we're not bothered by them.
Yeah.
It's just like because I mean, we'll listen to all sorts in the van, you know. We love old school hip hop, like absolutely love it, absolutely, you know, we dig that in the van, and then we loads of soul music, but we try and like, I think in part maybe because everyone obviously we like all the great stuff that everyone likes, but my point is everyone likes it, and it's kind of like it's almost could become a pastiche of itself in a certain respect, and it's like it doesn't mean I disrespect it or haven't learned anything from it, because we all have, but what I'm more interested in is finding the bands of today. So like the Monophonics, who are a psychedelic funk and soul band from California, the London Souls, who opened up for Rival Sons a few years ago. And
I saw them a couple of years back. They're fantastic band.
We managed to actually gig with them, man.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was honestly, that's probably one of the best nights of my entire musical career, because we were like, I said they were doing the Catfish and the Bottlemen tour.
Yeah. And
they had this one gig at the Seabright Arms in London, I think it was. And I just emailed them and just said, look, I'm coming to the gig anyway, because I'm not bothered about seeing Catfish and the Bottlemen, who actually we also have supported randomly. And like the year before they went big, they changed guitarists and they had a punch up out the back of the venue. It's all very strange. We were just like, oh, is this what it like to be in a band? And then so they had this one gig, and I just emailed, I'm coming to the gig anyway, but what would be the harm in me bringing my guitar and bandmates and maybe we can open up for you? You know, just being really cocky, really. Yeah. And they went, do it. And I was like, no way. So we get there and we get to hang out with them, and Sam got to play on the drum kit and everything. And we just like having probably the worst gig we've ever done, because we were so nervous. You know, and like Dave stood and watched us, and like we had to chat and we had a drink and whatever after the show with them. And we left London at like 4 a.m. in the morning, got home at stupid o'clock. Honestly, but because you know, we were meeting our sort of our musical heroes, a bit strong, but like what we felt like were our contemporaries. Yeah. And we were like, this is what more do you want? as a like that, you know, we got to meet them and chat with them, and same when we met the Monophonics, you know, after the show, and we don't have a gig with them. Maybe one day we'll get to, but you know, Ian Sean McDonald, the guitarist, was like, I was chatting with him and I was like, "I'll make your guitar. It's like this beautiful guitar." I was like, "Oh mate, go and have a play," and I was just like, "This is amazing." You know, like, so this is, and it's because like sometimes you've got that extra, that you're not just an audience member anymore. You're kind of sort of in between, because they know you. Is when we saw the Wood Brothers play once. I remember them.
Oh, yeah.
We went chatting with them after the show, and they're like, "Are you all in a band by any chance?" And we were like, "Yeah." How do you know? So because you were all staring at what we were doing so bad. You're just trying to learn.
Yeah.
You know, like, what is that? That's what they do in that bit of the song, because you can see it and hear it at the same time.
I know exactly, like, because I play bass, and I think I can't remember many gigs where I've not just watched the bass player for the entire show.
Especially with the bass. Really pleased about that.
Especially with the bass player, and I'm like, what's like? I always remember I was 17, and it was our first time we went to Download Festival, and we were on the Barrier, and Black Sabbath were headlining, and Geezer Butler was one of the reasons I started playing bass guitar, and everybody sort of crowding around in the middle, like where Ozzy's going to be. And me and my mates just happened to be the left-hand side of stage. So when all the cabs came out, I suddenly realised that I'm not going to be stood in front of Ozzy, but I am going to be stood in front of Geezer Butler. So all his pedal starts coming on, and my mate's looking at me going, "What are you doing?" Because I'm like this. He's going, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm trying to see what pedals he's got."
Yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out what wah pedal he's using or whatever.
Yeah, and like, so that's always been our thing, really. And like, we just like to, I don't know. You know, like, we found out about the London Souls because we read the lining notes of it. I think it was Derek Trucks had mentioned Tash Neal from London Souls, and we were like, "Oh, we'll check them out then." And we're like, "Oh yeah, these guys are great."
I must admit, I hadn't heard of them until they came on stage with Rival Sons when I went to go see Rival Sons, and they came out, and I'd heard the name obviously when they announced the support, and as you do, I thought, I'll go check them out and listen to a few songs online. I was like, "This is great! I'm definitely getting down early for them. They're fantastic."
Yeah. We went for the other reason. Because we weren't. At the time, I was very unbothered by Rival Sons.
Yeah.
And like, I was only going to. We only went to the gig to see London Souls, and we thought, we'll give the Rival Sons a chance after London Souls. You know, and then we were in there for 10, 15 minutes, and we were like, I'd rather go and see if we could find the London Souls and see if we can chat with them.
Yeah.
So we did. Like, we left the gig, you know. But yeah, we kind of. That's what we've been. It's what it's been like for us, really. Just trying to find sort of the music of today. We've all been influenced with the music from yesterday, but we wanted to find the music from today, so we could be like, who were we talking about? What records was I buying at the time in this point in my life, rather than buying the records that everybody's bought from the time before. And I know that can sound a little bit flippant, maybe, and I don't mean it to be like that. It's just, how much, like, no one's denying there were great songs, great records, great things happened in, you know, there's that golden era, if you like, for a lot of people, and I'm not denying that, but I'm like, we can't forever exist in music in that time.
No.
And like, you got to give what's going on today a chance, because there might be stuff that, well, in my opinion, there is stuff that's better. You know, there's not really better or worse, but there's stuff you can.
It's our generation of stuff.
Yeah,
it's like,
and we can carry that forward to the next ones, and then they can be like influenced by that, and then they can look and go, all right, so London Souls are influenced by the Beatles and Zeppelin, maybe, and they go back even further and they find this all out. You know, and I think it's important to, because otherwise the music of today is going to disappear.
Definitely. See, this is what I've always liked about Ramblin' Man Fair. They've always had a really good balance. I mean, yeah, you are going to have the older acts that are going to be the headliners on the main stage and attract the names, but they've also had that really good balance of younger bands as well, and younger bands. And to me, like, for me and my wife spoke about this quite a lot. Like, last 5-6 years, there's been a real strong current of like really good, as you put it, like our era of bands. And it's like you say, you can't keep having, as much as I'm sat here with an Aerosmith tattoo, but you can't, as much as I love them, you can't keep having your Aerosmiths, your Black Sabbaths, your Iron Maidens headlining all these shows and doing that without, you know, bringing the new bands up, because, like you say, then all the music that's now that is, and like these bands at that point in their career are it's not better, it's not, but they're hungrier. They want it more, and I think that always comes across live, especially. And when,
Yeah, and with the songwriting, they're going to be, it's a fresher perspective.
yeah,
You know, it's like if you've written 5, 6, 7, 8 studio albums, it's gonna. I'm not going to say you've run out of inspiration, but you're. I do believe there's only so much in the tank in that respect. Especially if you're going to talk about like real issues. If you're starting to just write songs to be a hit or just to write a song, because how amazing must it be to be able to be like, yeah, we're going to spend this much on the record and we know we'll sell this much.
yeah,
It doesn't, we can just do it. It doesn't matter. It all, in some respects, if we wrote an awful record, we get more PR. Right. Right. And it's like, from our point of view, and bands like us, we got to work so hard to just be heard.
yeah.
You know, and like, there's like 40,000 songs a day uploaded to Spotify.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And then, like, that's the competition, and it's like, and it's, so you've got to try and like forget that noise and just be like, what is it? You've got to work hard at that songwriting stuff, and you've got to, and like you said, find those sort of, it's people like yourself and other true music fans, these ones, people that go to gigs a lot, probably more than the musicians do gigs in a year.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's finding those people, and those people like yourself and others are so important to bands like us and other bands you mentioned, like Hollow Star, etc., because you're given us an opportunity and a platform to build from.
Yeah.
And if we can get, the more bands that get that chance, the better. Doesn't mean all of them are going to continue or get through to the next level or whatever, but it's having that platform of somewhere to not start, because we weren't starting at that point, but like it's like somewhere to aim to and go, right, now we got to here, what happens now? How, and that's the big challenge. I think a lot of people can get to this point to a degree. I think maybe as a few years ago you can get to that point. But like, to go beyond that, that's the challenge really. And but it's because of people like yourself that it makes it possible. So we're very thankful to everyone that supported us from day dot, really. And we there's a guy called Andrew, actually, he still comes to shows today, and he saw us when we used to play in pubs 8 years ago.
Nice.
And it's amazing, and he's like, he keeps coming up and says, I told you were the best band in the world. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we're not, but every band's the best band in the world to somebody, and that's what's important.
Definitely. But that's the thing, like when I started the radio show, because it's only a local show, but fortunately, because I don't know, words got out, but I played a lot of younger, new bands, and that's what I loved. And I've always struck my radio show as 2 hours of my mates come around my house, and whatever's excited me that week, I've got, dude, you need to listen to this. That's how I've always struck my radio show. And I think, first of all, when I started the show, because it's quite a little local station, they kind of wanted me to play just like Living on a Prayer and Sweet Child of Mine. And I said, look, if that's the show you want, I'm not your guy. As much as I love the classics like everyone else does, like you say, but they're like, say, such a strong current of bands. I'm like, well, they're the bands that excite me right now, so they're the bands I'm going to play. And like I was saying back thing, and it's the same with the festival that I run with Just Push Play Festival. The bands on that bill are just bands that prick my ear up. I don't have to be like, people say, well, how do I get onto Just Push Play? And I'm like, I've had to heard your stuff, seen you live and enjoyed you. That's about it. And
because it's kind of how it should be.
Yeah.
It's like, and people, it's just giving people the chance. And like, if people like it, we never expect. I said to you, I didn't do this for anyone else. So I wasn't interested. Part of me, at least, is not interested in whether anyone else likes it or not.
No,
that's not why I'm doing it. Because if I was doing it to see if I can make people like it, then I'm going to fail already. Because it's a bit like, you can't love someone until you love yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, you've got to be doing it for the reasons that are true to yourself. And then if you do that and you hold steady with what you're doing, the people that relate to that will find you.
I think that's the thing, that I think when you are, like we were saying earlier, with the emotional side of things, if you are writing from the heart and you're being honest and true to yourself, that shines so much brighter than anyone trying to write, for want of a better term, a hit.
Yeah,
it sounds just, and the songs that you can write a 3-4 minute pop song or a pop rock song or whatever you want to call it and write a hit, but 6 months later when it's getting played every day, every 3 minutes or whatever on every single station, people get bored of it, they get fed up of it, and the songs that might not necessarily be number 1 or number 2 in the charts always seems to be the ones that have a longer lifespan as far as I'm concerned, and those are the songs where, like you say, anyone can relate to.
Yeah,
going to last long because people throughout all the years are going to, they might hear it for whatever reason and go, oh, okay, and then they go back and start exploring.
And that's what this record's about. I wanted to be able to, when I get to be an older man and I pull out, I don't know, grandkid says to me, what did you used to do then, Granddad? And Mum says you were in a band. I'd be like, well, yeah, I was. And look, here's, old man, pull out the record. I'd be like, be like that. Well, that's what we did actually. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I this particular record, whatever happens from this point on in my career, I'm cool with, because I'm like, I'm not. There's no such thing as perfection. that's non-existent. But I know that we've done right by ourselves in this record, and we've given ourselves the best possible opportunity to have written something that could actually stand the test of time. And that's all I wanted to do, was see if I could do that. And I think we have.
Yeah. So do you feel like this is more of an album? Because there's albums out there that are a good collection of songs, and there's albums out there that are, for want of a better term, as I would just call them, an album. One that you've got to at least listen through it all the way through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a whole piece. You need to hear the whole. The way I always think of it is like, you go to an art exhibition or whatever, and the artists have laid their pieces out in a certain way because that's how the story of the art's unfolding. Like, there's certain albums out there that are, for want of better terms, greatest hits albums with when they weren't greatest hits. Yeah. They're good collections of songs. And then there's albums out there that certain songs I'd heard out of context of the album, and they weren't necessarily like hitting me. Then you hear the whole album and it's,
yeah, and that's
think, right, that's the story. I get it now. I get why that song was put there.
And that is exactly what this album is. It's concept album's a bit too strong a term for what it is, but it's definitely more than just a collection of songs. This is,
but it does have a story and a theme going.
I can't tell you. We've written not only written the words to the lyrics, but we've written thousands of words around the album, around what it's about, why which song means what, why it should be in that order. There were several orders we were working off, and we spent a long time arguing. Discussing is probably the right term, but trying to be like why it should be in a certain order and what and like the different ideas until we came up with the final running order. And there was a song that's on there that nearly didn't make it onto the record.
Oh wow!
But it was something, people were like, the guys and the producer were like, yeah, it's an interesting song. I was like, no, this song needs it. Like, it has to be in there. We were trying to write this middle eight for it or something, and I was like, no, this is not doing it. It's not it's not getting it. This song is vital to the sort of end of this record. It completes the journey. To put loosely, it's like there's this sort of coming of age kind of bracket.
Yeah.
So we started writing this record 2.5 years ago, maybe something like that. And I'd read a book because obviously I've struggled with mental health, and sometimes to understand what a man's place is in this world nowadays, and how men are perceived, and how we're almost, I don't know, not to take away from any of the other issues that exist in this world at all, because they are, and like, but there's, why are lots of young men killing themselves? Why is that a thing? And like, why did I feel like that way? What's going on? And I started to want to understand that more. And my mum actually gave me a book, and it was a psychoanalytical review of a Grimm Brothers fairy tale called Iron John, or Iron Hands in German. And it's this story of this kingdom that exists. It's a fairy tale, and like there's this kingdom. This man turns up, And he's like, right, give me something dangerous to do. I'm here, you know, I've got my dog. I don't care. I'm a bloke. I'll deal with it. I'm paraphrasing, but like, and then and they go, oh, we don't go in that forest. We don't go in there because people go in there and don't come back. He says, right, see you in a bit. And then he goes off into the forest. He gets to this big lake in the middle, and this arm comes out and grabs his dog and pulls it under the water. And he goes, right. So he goes back, gets everybody. They empty the lake with buckets. And there's this wild man sat there. He's like the epitome of man. He's really hairy. He's like got like rusty coloured hair and muscly and big and strong. And they capture him and take him back to the kingdom and put him in a cage. And the prince is playing in the courtyard. His golden football, which is symbolic for lots of stuff, rolls into the cage, and he asks the wild man for it back, and he says, you can have it back, but you got to let me out, mate, because I don't want to be stuck in this cage. And he's like, oh, I can't really do that on the prince, I'll get in trouble. And he says, and plus I don't even know where the key is. And the wild man's, you know where the key is, it's under your mother's pillow. And there's this more significance about how maybe men need to sort of break away from their mothers, and that sort of breaking the rule of like going under the mother's pillow to get the key was significant. Because like there was further talks of in other cultures, there's, you know, when particularly in Africa, I think this is what the book was talking about, was that in some cultures the boys were kept, all the children were kept with the women, and then as the men would be off hunting, and then when they got to a certain age, I don't know what that age is, say let's say 14, 15 or whatever, the men would actually, it was staged but it was real, a kidnapping, and they would kidnap their own son from the mother. And they wouldn't be allowed to see their mother again until they'd been away with the father and learned to become a man. And then when they next saw their mother again, they were referred, he was a man.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not trying to say that we all need to do that, but I think there's some relevance in like how, if you look at the modern society today, like when families break down, which happens quite a lot, young families are split up, and it happens in my life, and you end up with the mother, and that's not a bad thing.
No.
But there's certain things that you need as a man, you kind of need to learn from a man.
Yeah.
You know, like just silly things like the first time you want to shave your face, or like how to, I don't know, just conversations you might perhaps prefer to have with your dad, going for the first pint, all that kind of stuff. So that was the significance in that, and then so this boy goes off into the forest with this wild man because he lets him out, and he's like, well, I'll have to come with you, mate, because I'm in so much trouble. So he goes off and he ends up having to look after this lake or spring or whatever it is with him. And he says, don't let anything touch the water. And basically that does 3 times. And the last time it's his hair, and all the boy's hair turns to gold. And the wild man's like, right, I've taught you everything I was meant to teach you, and you've got to go now because you broke my rules. But if you ever need me, I'm here. You've only got to call me and I'll come and help you. And the story goes on, but like it really inspired part of me. And I started to be wondered why I like how I was feeling and why I'd felt certain ways more retrospectively, because I was starting to feel more wholesome and sort of more myself and who I was meant to be, and less worried about perhaps what everyone else thought of me, or care less what everyone else thought about me. You know, and because I spend a lot of time in my own head, like a lot, it's a problem. Like, you know, I can be very distracted because I'm just sitting there thinking about something that happened days and days ago that no one else has even remembered, and I'm going, oh, but I wonder if they think I said something wrong, or they're thinking that about me, or I wonder how that came across, and I'm not in the moment ever, almost. So it was retrospectively looking back at my life and maybe why I'd felt certain ways, and trying to understand that and where I was trying to get to and how I was feeling now. And that this album is like if the first album was between my sort of late teens, early 20s, this is more like my late 20s, early 30s. It's like this part of my life and how I felt. And, you know, maybe I'll look back at it and cringe or something, but I don't think so, because I really feel like there's some significance in there of how I've developed and why.
I think it's all part of your story, though, isn't it, mate? I mean, Yeah, you say like 10 years time, you might look back on it and think, oh, I wish I hadn't said that. But
Yeah.
but equally, it's still part of your life. It's still part of your story, and it goes
Yeah.
back to what we were saying earlier about mental health and stuff, and breaking down the barriers. And for one of your terms of what a man's supposed to be, and man's supposed to be strong and not talk about all this sort of stuff, which is rubbish. And to lay it out there, man, I take my hat off to you, mate. I really do.
Oh, thank you. I'm not. I equally don't want to become like a. I don't want to become like an advocate about it either. Not because I disagree with it. I think it's great. I'm just. I don't think I'm kind of a bit odd. I have quite odd thoughts. More what I mean to say is like I don't think necessarily talking about it all the time actually will help other people to feel better. Or I think maybe by talking about these things, we might encourage people to start thinking that way in the first place when they may not have even thought about it if you don't mention it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I sometimes think it's like if someone feels like that, or they are getting to a place of feeling like that, they can, of course you can talk about it. Please talk about it. I think men can be quite, this lockdown, I feel extremely isolated. And I'm sure lots of other people do too, but I can only talk about my perception.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
And it's hard to just. I think women are fantastic mostly at kind of maintaining social groups and sort of supporting each other, or being like, oh, no, well done, babe, you've done so well, and I'll send you a little support package, or I'll do this, I'll do that. Men don't do that.
No.
At all.
No, we don't.
And if something goes wrong or right in your life as a man, they basically other men will take the piss as their way of trying to be like, well done, and are you all right? And as someone who's quite connected to their own emotions, almost perhaps a more feminine way, I find that quite challenging sometimes, those situations, because I'm not getting the response or the feedback or the feelings I need from the people around me, because I don't behave like that. I'm quite happy to express myself and talk about how I'm feeling, but equally I maybe would like to be told, oh, well done, or like, oh, are you okay today, or do you want to do you want a hug, or do you want to? I'm like, yeah, actually, you know what, I really appreciate that. And it's like, and I think so growing up as what people perceive me to be, this manly man because I'm in a band or something, and like I've got this perception of being a front man, but secretly I'm like, oh, I'm actually quite an anxious, shy, nervous person. And like the only way to deal with that for me is to hide in the limelight rather than, because you're like, oh, there I am, everyone knows I'm there, and I can just pretend I'm that. I'm this other person that no one's got a clue exists. And it's, but I do think it's important for people to not fear it themselves. However you are or however you feel is I would argue 99.9% of us is okay. There's always going to be the oddball somewhere that does something a bit dodgy, but on the whole, people are just nice. And if people aren't vibrating with you that get you or understand you, don't try and change them. Or change, or worse, change yourself for them.
Never try and save yourself for anyone else. Never.
Just be you and be honest with yourself. And if something doesn't go right and you don't understand and you're hurt by it, it's okay to evaluate it and look it back and try and work out, could I have done something differently, or was I doing something incorrectly? Because that shows a depth of personality that you can be critical upon yourself and go, you know what, I could have been a bit more caring in that situation. Perhaps that's what went wrong, or I should have listened a bit more, or something. But you can carry that forward and make that change. It's
how you use it, though, isn't it? Like you say, like you can sit there and wallow in it and think, did I do this wrong, or did I do that wrong, or could I have done this differently? And maybe there was something, maybe there wasn't. But like you say, if there is something, you can work on it, and you can tweak that part of yourself. And we're only human beings. We're always wanting to. You'd like to think throughout the whole of your life you would continue to improve yourself and become a better person. I've done stuff in the past that we were all teenagers once, and then you look back on certain things you did or said, and you think, man, if someone had said that to me, I would have, slapped them, quite frankly. But but like you say, is that it's grown, and we grow physically and we grow mentally throughout.
Yeah, I think there's this importance as well about. I totally wallow in self-pity sometimes.
We all do.
And
Everyone in this earth is with it.
yeah, but it's actually okay to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's this kind of thing like, no, I must feel good every day. I must do this stuff. I must be running. I must eat healthy food. I must feel good today. I'm meant to look at all these people online that look so positive and happy, and I feel like this. And it's like, if you felt good all the time, you wouldn't know it was good.
Yeah.
So you have to have those days of being like, I don't feel okay today, or I don't feel connected, whatever it is for you, so that when you do feel good, you can feel good. And you've got to also remember that we're pre-programmed because of fight or flight kind of syndromes to remember bad things more than good things. Yeah. We think, oh, I'm always like this, but it's because our brain doesn't choose to remember how happy we were in certain situations, because it protects us more to remember what was harmful.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time remembering, oh, that was bad that day, or and doing that. But equally, I think it's really important because I used to get really annoyed at myself. I'd have I had it not a week or so ago. I was having days and days of just feeling like, oh God, I've woken up again, like that, and but at the same time, now I've come out of that, and I'm like, oh, I feel a bit happier now, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, and I can go, right, okay, don't worry, that was just like a moment in time, a few days occasionally, or whatever, even if it's a few weeks, even if it's months, years, it's like whatever it takes for you to get out the other side is okay. And there's no rule book. So
there isn't anything.
Nobody knows what's going on. That's the other thing you learn as an adult, isn't it? You think everyone's got their stuff together and knows what's going on, but actually no one has a clue.
No one knows a clue. They're just trying to work out like we are, like I do, like you do. I mean, I guess going back to the man thing, I was always quite fortunate. And it's going to sound sound really horrible, but my dad was he was in the RAF. He was out in the Falklands and in the Gulf War when I was a kid, and he came back with like PTSD and stuff from the war and all that. And he was, don't get me wrong, he went and sorted himself out and he was okay. But after that, I mean, it's hard to know what he would have been like before, because I was only like 2 or 3 years old when he went out to the Gulf. And but after that, my dad was very much to use my dad's expression, fuck the masculine bollocks. You want to cry, you cry. You want to talk, we talk. Don't bother, because my dad obviously came back and been told you don't talk about X, Y, and Z, what you saw out there and what went on, and that's what sort of made him suffer. He went through his therapy and he came out the other side and he was okay. But after that, my dad was very much instilled in me and my sister. We talk about things, we sort it out. You don't bottle anything up. You talk about emotions, especially me, because I think he wanted to instill in me this illusion that because you're a man, you have to take everything on your shoulders, and that you don't talk about things, and you don't cry, and all that is complete crap. So I was lucky in that respect, because I know a lot of my friends who didn't have that in their fathers, and their fathers were a bit more Victorian, I guess. And they were like that. They were that men don't cry. You just throw over your shoulders and get on with it. But
mine was a bit of a different experience, to be honest, because my parents were together when I was a child, and they were together until I was roughly sort of 10, 11 years old or so. And the actual roles were flipped in my household, because my mum earned more money. So in that first 10 years, my dad was a stay-at-home dad pretty much.
Oh, okay.
And my mum was out at work. And even in the village, everyone thought this man in the village was gay because he didn't have a job and all this kind of stuff. And he was stay at home. He's like, oh, he must, it's all, we're going back, 20, 30 years now. It's a different time, isn't it? But then when my parents split, I was shipped off and was living with my mum and with my brother as well. And then, but there was a physical distance where I didn't actually see my dad properly for 15 years. Wow. Probably. Like, we did see each other, but communication breakdown was poor. He admit, now we've talked about it quite a lot. He admits he holds his hands up. He could have done more. As I got older, I could have tackled him on those issues more, etc., etc. But I didn't have that role model, and I was the eldest man in the house.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't think anyone specifically said to me or anything that I was the man of the house, but I felt like I was. And from this very young age, I remember being very much like, I have to protect mum and my brother because I'm the eldest. If someone breaks in, I have to throw myself at them so they don't hurt my family. You know, this kind of like, but equally, I didn't have. I was kind of like a little bit of a leader of in my group, if you like, the one that, you know, there's always someone that kind of holds it everyone together. That was kind of who I was, because I was always the eldest, and I was. And I, you know, I had my brother, so I had a bit of backup. So, do you know what I mean? There's this kind of odd stuff when you're growing up, whatever, you know what I mean? And like, so I was the first person to sleep with a girl. I was the first person to like drive. I was the first person to be able to go to the pub. I was the first to do anything all the time, but I had no one to reference it off. Do you know what I mean? I didn't like, they had me to reference off. Some had me to come and go. Whereas I just was like, I have no idea. There's no one I don't feel like I've got anyone I can ask. There's no one. Equally, I didn't have that kind of like an older brother that could protect me when I was at school. I moved schools at really awkward times as well. Like I moved from the Isle of Wight back up to Shropshire, and I'd got to year 7, but I was in a 3-tier system, so that it was year 5 to year 8 school. And I'd been there for a couple of years, and I was like, so I was kind of one of the eldest, and I was like, I kind of knew where I was in the hierarchy, all that kind of stuff. But then I got moved into the like halfway through year 7 into a year 7 to year 12 school, where I literally knew nobody. Not a single person. And I can't tell you how even today that scares me, because I was like, no one. I don't know anybody. I don't know their backstory. I don't know what they're like. I don't know if I'm mixing with the right people or the wrong people. I don't know what they're going to do to me. I don't like, you know, no one cares about me because I'm the new guy. You know, it was horrible. And I think all that kind of stuff, you know, that there's some reasons why I might have felt why I did. You know, it's like it was challenging times. I didn't enjoy school at all. It was really difficult.
No, I didn't have a great time either. I had epilepsy as a kid. And I got horrendously bullied for that.
Yeah, kids are so brutal, man.
No, man.
And I don't know what, it's such an odd thing. It's because I guess like fundamentally we all fear something that's different from us, or that challenges something we don't know, or whatever. But I don't know why as kids there was always this, because it must still happen today. Even though the world's got fairer and to certain extents, and people are nicer to each other to a certain extent, I still imagine school is a rough place to be, and like I don't know what that is, because there's this kind of, you believe, there's an innocence to children, but somewhere that gets lost when they hit teenage years, man. They are harsh. Really harsh. Yeah. But yeah, I do think that's kind of some of the stuff that's why this record's important to me, because I was like, it's come round to sort of, I don't think I've found myself, because I don't think everyone that's, in my opinion, anyone that says they found themselves, I mean, how? Yeah. Because I don't believe you ever do. I think you can have.
You can make peace the way you've been, though, can't you?
Yeah, you can look at how maybe why you've got to where you're at. I think and I don't know what happens next, but I'm excited to see how I might cope with it, and what I might be able to do next, and not just musically, but as my own person, and what I might be able to achieve. And like, I think I'm just really pleased we were in the fortunate enough position to be able to actually do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't, like, it's all good and well, like, if I was absolutely minted and I could just go and say I'm just going to record an album because I can, then great. But we've built our business from literally as kids. Me and my brother were gigging in a garage in a street in Market Drayton, and people would stop and have a listen. And now we tour this country, other countries, play big festivals, open for big bands, and like. Sometimes I have to look, just go, God, 14-year-old me, if he'd said, someone, I could say to him, like, you're going to do those things, don't worry about it, I'd be over the moon.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm just so pleased and thankful and genuinely thankful to everyone that's sort of supported us and over the years, and is finding us and connecting with us and enjoying the music, most importantly. And that's what I want to be judged on, nothing else. you know, on a good, because like it means more to me that people like, because I don't know, there's kind of a bit of a, you know, kind of a thing nowadays where it's like how popular you are on social media and stuff. And if it wasn't for being in the band, I don't think I wouldn't even live in the world of social media, to be quite honest with you. I find it very, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 32, and when so when social media came out, like no one really cared.
No.
Like, and I'm like, I don't think there's ever been a time before now when, like, when I was 21 and people were 32, there wasn't a big gap between us. Like, it was just a 10-year gap. Actually, we were starting to maybe learn and do the same sort of things. Whereas now, 21-year-olds, I have no idea what they're talking about. And like, there's this whole stuff that like the TikTok, Snapchat, and other stuff that I probably am not even aware of, that they're all engaging on this in online content. And you kind of like, what happened to people talking to each other?
Yeah.
Like, just like normally.
We were talking about this at work a couple of months ago. Well, a few months ago now, because me and one other lad I work with, Sam, the same age. We've both been with our wives, like, including dating period, same sort of time, 10 years. And there was someone at work was going on about like Tinder and stuff. And me and Sam were like respectively, like if he was to break up with his wife Grace, or if I was to break up with my, we were like, I don't know what I'd do anymore, because I'm still in my head. I would go back to doing what I did when I was 21, when I had to go and talk to people, you know, try and chat someone up and try and, you know, get a date and a drink. There was none of this. Oh, there's some random women on your phone and who do you like the look of? Like, what the fuck?
Hey, tell me about it. I'm a single man and I've got no idea what I'm supposed to do. I wouldn't even, to be honest with you, the other side of it is you don't even know if you're allowed to approach a woman sometimes. That's how the genuinely is a fear in me. I'm like, how do you do that now? Like, I don't, obviously I don't go around pinching people's bums anyway, but I mean, like,
yeah.
I did that. You like, sometimes I don't think women realize how for some people, some men who like, it's really nerve wracking. You go, I don't know what they call a group of women, but I'm going to call them a gaggle of women. I think that's a good
I like that as a term.
Like, you know, to go up to them and you're like, you go up to the one that you kind of fancy because you've seen them across the room, that kind of a romantic story, and then you're like, there's like 4 or 5 of them like giving you the like, and you're like, oh, this is absolutely terrifying. Please don't hurt me. You know, I just thought I fancied you, mate. I'm sorry. Like,
I just come to say hello. I'm not a weirdo.
Yeah. And then you know, wrap that in top of like, yeah, by the way, I'm away half the year on tour. It's like, is this like, again, this kind of imagination of what I might be, and that you have to break this barrier. That's another, you know, the other thing is they're like, oh, you must be such a womanizer if you're in a band. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I actually, I mean, for one, I ain't seen a woman for months. You know, like, you know, I live on the Welsh coast. I live in Tywyn on the Welsh coast, and like, I don't even know how many people are. I think there's only 7,000 people that live here. You know, so it's like, I'm just like, great. Sounds like the end of the world as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, it's really weird, interesting world, and like it's changed so much so quickly. You know, when we're like, again, back when we were growing up, you know, people are 10 years older than us and our parents or whatever, they were teaching us about the world that they had grown up in and existed, and kind of how it had been for a good. Although technology had changed a bit, it was the principles were the same. Whereas now, it's changed so much. We're like out of it already, and I'm like, I don't feel part of the world that I thought I was growing up in.
No.
And the world I was taught to exist in doesn't actually exist.
Not there anymore.
So you're like, we're kind of this weird lost generation of people that kind of like, as I see it, that kind of, if we were 10 years older, it's fine, doesn't matter. 10 years younger, it's cool, you're kind of involved in what's happened, the change.
Yeah.
But we're like, and when I say the change, that sounds awful. I mean like the change technology wise. But like we're in this kind of weird rut where we're trained for this world that, like we said, doesn't exist now. And I equally have no interest in the world that's coming up underneath me. So I'm like, well, where am I supposed to go?
To the recording studio.
Basically, and try and pour my heart out onto a CD. Yeah. And see if I can deal with it that way, hopefully.
So you mentioned roughly, touring the world and ignoring women.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, with the news that came like last week of it looking like the live scene returning, are Rainbreakers making plans, or are you guys waiting to see what happens?
I mean, we're always making plans, like always trying to find ourselves opportunities to play, really, or anything that we can do. I think it's positive news. I'm really pleased that there's been these announcements, because I'm kind of getting, in my personal opinion, going to get into the place where, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody who's lost someone or lives have been lost. I really don't. But equally, the world, it's got to get to the point where the world's got to carry on again.
Yeah.
At some point, vaccine or no vaccine, are kind of like we can't operate like we are anymore. Do you know what I mean? I do feel like there's been some stuff that's been announced and festivals and selling out and all that kind of stuff. But that's been before the budget's been announced, which is this week.
Yeah.
And there's this there is a concern about, I think, that the COVID cancellation insurance. If things are sold out, and it's at the moment we don't know, but if they're sold out and there isn't this COVID cancellation insurance, and then they can't go ahead because of COVID reasons, no one's getting their money back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if punters know that or not. And I mean, I don't want to sound like. Hopefully, what's going to happen this week is they're going to announce they have got that insurance, or they're going to put these procedures in place to cover those events. Yeah. And once that's happened, the conversations I've had with my agency anyway has been like, that's when I think we'll feel a bit more confident. That said, people are getting in touch again, and there are more positive conversations happening about shows. Yeah. We've been booked for a really cool show that I wish I could tell you about, but I'm really not allowed to say anything. It's so annoying. I get told. Honestly, sometimes I'm not allowed to say anything. I'm like, what can I talk about then? But I can say it's a cool gig in a castle. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that's going to be a fun show. And I think this year is going to be a bit of a weird year for a lot of people still. When we say June the 21st or whatever that date is, where everyone's allowed out, even if that's the case, I feel different to how I felt 18 months ago.
Yeah.
We weren't thinking like this, this kind of like, oh, you need to be aware about this stuff. Like, no, about socially distancing. It's going to feel weird to not socially distance.
It is, because we've been in this situation for a year, 18 months, where people are so used to doing that now. It's just going to feel alien not to.
And like being from, like, I don't know, being over in town where there aren't many people. I went for a walk today, and I go days with only speaking to the people that I live with in the house, my family. I go for walks on the beach and I don't see anybody.
Yeah.
Like this is great, but when you've done that for a long time, wouldn't mind chatting to someone at all. But then when I go to, like, we've got to go to a video shoot in a couple of weeks over in Birmingham, which I'm really excited to do. But it's like you go to these busier places, and genuinely, I get a little bit freaked out.
Yeah,
because I'm like, whoa, there's so many people. So like people in London are for example, they're kind of getting used to the social distance they have to apply to their lives, which in comparison to my life is being around a lot of people. Over here, I'm like, you want socially distance? Come and be here for a few days.
Yeah, when you don't.
There's only 7,000 people that live here, and a lot of that population are well over 65, so they're all staying inside anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no one around. And like, so like but you compare that to like the inner cities or city places, like that socially distancing is very different. And like I even went back to Shrewsbury. After the very first lockdown last year, I was like, oh, let's go for a walk along the river. I haven't walked along it for ages. I did straight away, and I was like, whoa, there's all these people, man. They ain't getting out of the way. What's going on? Like, why are there so many people?
Yeah.
So, and I think the first gig back, equally that's going to be. I think it's going to be emotional, actually.
Yeah,
I think, you know, it's going to be like something no one's done for such a long time.
yeah,
We're going to be nervous, more nervous than perhaps we normally would be. In well, not normally would be, a different nervous, a
yeah,
more apprehensive nervous, because we're just like, oh, can we even remember how to do this anymore?
yeah,
We feel
yeah.
like to stand in front of people and play, you know?
Yeah, it's not like when
Uh,
you do it every week and you know full well you've got that. You've been there, you've done it.
yeah,
How long it almost becomes alien again, doesn't it?
yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago.
Mm.
I know, and like, it's not, obviously, it's like, what, 14, 12, 14 months ago, whenever our last show was, but, you know, it's this kind of like, it's going to feel a bit alien in the world, I think, when it all goes back out there. And like, I think it's going to take some adjusting to. And I don't know I think there's some expectations that it's just going to be like it was before. I don't think that's a fair assumption. I think it's probably going to be a new normal.
Oh yeah, there'll be a
Uh,
different way about it.
yeah. And like, I don't know. I don't like this kind of uh, sort of invisible barriers that have been put up between us all.
Yeah,
You know, like silly things like you automatically cross the street when there's two people on the path because you got to make room.
yeah.
You know, just silly things like that. Whereas before you just didn't. You just walk past them and might say hello or not. Most people don't say hi when you say hello to them. Trust me, I try. But it's yeah. So yeah, I'm pleased and slightly anxious about the whole thing. See what's going. I think it's fair to say. Part of me wants to get really excited about it, but I think it's better. I think it's a slightly, you know, mature response is to be like, yeah, but let's just, you know, look at it from another angle. There might be some different things, different feelings, and different things happening. I mean, that first night out is going to be utter carnage, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's going to be Mardi Gras basically, isn't it? It's just going to be.
But I just hope we can go back. Equally, I hope we can go back and all be a bit different. You know, can we become a bit more? Can we be more? Can it be more like the world we were wanting to be in, where it was more people were sociable. You could talk to people. Not everyone is just stuck in their groups on their phones. You know, it's like you might cross over and meet new people. Whoa, you know, you know that'd be really nice. Because that's how it always was. And it's like I don't know. We kind of the technology obviously is fantastic, and it's been a godsend for so many people through the lockdowns to give them opportunity to just stay in touch with people, if nothing else, and to keep them occupied and give them things to do, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know, time for a change, maybe? Time for a bit more sort of people talking to people again?
I think people have missed that interaction, hasn't they? I mean, I know there were a lot of people that I knew sort of up and down the country, mainly from just going to gigs, how I met them, and that kind of thing. And there might be friends of mine who live, you know, other end of the country to me, but we'd always meet up at gig, and you know, you go there if it was a gig club more close to them. So I've made the distance, as it were. You know, you go up the night before, or even like first thing in the morning, and go have a catch up in a bar somewhere, and have that interaction like we're talking about. And then that's the bit I've missed just as much as the live music itself, was the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not alone on that one. So yeah, let's hope when live music does return that it's safe and yeah, people can.
And hopefully we get some more younger people coming through, because they're like, you know what, we've done enough. Like, I think in some respects, some people love going to a club and all that stuff, and that's great. And I'm not trying to say they shouldn't. You know, it's not, oddly, they're not the most sociable place. You can't really talk. You know, and I'm not saying people can, you know, really talk at a gig, but there are spaces where you can talk. There's gaps in between. There's like, you know, there's breaks, natural breaks. There's after the show, people hang and have a chat and all that kind of stuff. It's a different night out, and it'd be nice for maybe to people, if people try out things they hadn't tried before, to go like, you know what, I don't want to. I don't want to just be in a room and get drunk and pay a tenner to be in it and have my head pounded by whatever it is that they're listening to. Not that it's bad music, some of it's awesome. But like, you know, some of that drum and bass, for example, killer. But I just think, I don't know, hopefully more people will try things, all sorts, whether it's going to a, like you say, like an art installation, or going to a poetry reading night, or just stuff where it's people delivering stuff to other people again.
I think
really
that's
nice.
it, like, because like you said, I think people are missing that contact, and I think because everybody has been stuck in their own four walls for so long and for such a length of time, that whatever the reason is to go out, they probably will, and that probably will encourage them to go somewhere that they might not have done before.
I think I'm definitely going to be more of a sort of yes guy. Be more like, yeah, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Because I was always a bit more anxious. I think, like I was saying before, I'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
I wanted to, but I'd be like, oh, I don't know, it's too much social pressure in my head about it before I even got there. So I think I'm definitely going to be trying to be a bit more of a. Also, the worst. It's better. Like, you've had all this, you've been sat around doing nothing. Go and do something. Go and speak to people. Go and see what it's like. Especially when we're going to get. For me, actually, we're going to get a chance before we get out gigging again.
Definitely.
To be around, we're so it's so difficult. I think there's another side of a band's life that a lot of people don't understand or have any understanding of, really, because we move from town to town. I'm not there, like, I don't go to one gig and go up the night before to have a chat with some mates like you have, and then do the gig, and then maybe have another night and go off somewhere else and do something and meet someone else. I'm just moving from town to town, like that, for constantly. Sometimes, I mean, we're talking about next year, we might be doing that for 3 months straight.
Oh, wow.
Which is very exciting, and I love that. But equally, there's another side of that where for those 3 months I don't exist anywhere, because I'm not really anywhere for very long. Even when you literally, especially when we're touring in Europe and stuff, we've done some horrendous drives, man, like absolutely horrendous, and you're like, you get up, you're in the van all day, you get out, you unload, you do the gig, you go and you then load it back in and go to bed, and then you get up and do the same thing the next day. And you're like, I've been to these beautiful places, but I've only seen it from a window of a van. So I'm kind of looking forward to, it sounds like I'm really like about gigging, but I'm not. I can't wait to get back out on the road, but I am equally looking forward to maybe getting a chance to go and just see some friends.
Yeah, cool.
And have a drink and have a chance to do that. Because there's this kind of other thing that the world opens up and everyone's just going back to work. So I was going to be like, oh, great. Isn't the 21st of June a Monday? I'm pretty sure it's a Monday.
Yeah.
So it's like, people are going to go, oh, clubbing. It's like, well, you're not going to really go on a Monday, probably because a lot of people are going to be working on the Tuesday. I mean, I'm going to go out on the Monday because I don't have a day job. So I'm just going to be like, I'm going to
try and enjoy it.
I think that'll be cool.
So, mate, at the beginning of the interview, we're going to play Ashes.
Okay.
But what song of yours would you like us to air the interview out on?
Of ours?
Yeah, we'll sandwich it.
You could do the live version of Ain't Nothing Going On if you want. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, we recorded that with Chris Barris and Josiah down at Momentum Studios. That was a good day.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah,
it was fun. Yeah, no, we had a right laugh because Chris Barris, again, someone we gigged with loads out on the road. But like, I say loads, we know a fair amount. We bump into each other all the time, all of us. You're like, all right, mate, yeah, see you at the next one. And then obviously he blew up, didn't he? Well, everyone thinks it kind of like happens almost overnight. I'm sure it was a concerted effort, and and he's worked very hard to get to where he is. And he's one of the few people I've met and seen that happen to that have been consistently a nice guy.
Yeah.
When we first gigged with him, we were, for want of a better word, level, and then the next time we met, he was the rock star, but he didn't behave like that. Do you know what I mean? He talked to us exactly. I remember when I took the piss out of him, which was a bit brave because he was a cage fighter.
I was going to say that's quite brave.
But I remember saying to him like, "Oh," because he had the hat which he hadn't worn before that I had seen anyway. And I was like, "Is that where you get the hats from? Do you get them when you get a record deal? Is that how that works?" And he's like, "Shut up." I was like, "I'll take that. That's fine. That's enough."
Yeah.
But he's a top bloke, and we had a good day filming and recording with them. It's a great studio that Josiah's got down there. Really nice.
Oh, cool. All right, man. We'll go with that, dude.
Yeah, nice one.
All right. Cheers, Ben. It's been an absolute pleasure, buddy.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't realise we've been rambling so long. Sorry.
No worries. Cool. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, thanks for your time. I really and genuinely thanks to you from all of us, for supporting our music and playing it and being an advocate for lots of other bands. It is appreciated greatly.
Oh, no worries, man. Like I said earlier, that's my 2 hours of a week where I go. Like I say, I just treat as mates come around. This is the music I love and go listen to it. So that's all I ever do. Just play stuff I love, mate. So.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. And like I said, once it's going out, you can message me if you want on Facebook and send me links, or when I see it's being tagged, I'll make sure the person that does also social media stuff or whatever they do, I'll be like, make sure you push that out.
Cheers, man.
We'll make it happen. All right.
Well, I'll probably do a little teaser post in a bit, just saying that we've had a chat and that you'll be on the show soon. And then by the week of the show, like I say, I've got 2 interviews lined up already for Friday, so it'll be next Friday the 12th. But
which is the day we were shooting the video.
Oh, is it? Oh, cool.
We'll be shooting another video that day, so you can have a little bit of insider info there if you like.
Oh, nice one. All right, buddy.
All right. Well, you have a nice evening. Thanks for chatting.
No, thanks to you, dude.
Cheers. Hey, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye.